Most people don't choose their lives. They accidentally get stuck in one of four quadrants in the external success and internal peace matrix. And by the time they realize which life they are living, it's usually too late. The four quadrants, or the four possible lives that you can live, fall neatly into the external success versus internal peace matrix. The first one is the lost drifter. The second is the exhausted achiever. The third one is the peaceful underachiever. And the one that we're all searching for is the fourth quadrant, the integrated human. If you feel like that you're winning on paper but losing your mind, you're likely in quadrant 2, the exhausted achiever. I'm going to show you the one tax called the success tax that you're paying and which you didn't sign up for. But first, let's look at the lost drifter. This is the person with no clear direction, no meaningful goals, someone who escapes into distractions and feels like life is happening to them. Examples include endless scrolling, complaining without action, and waiting for motivation. And the predominant emotion in this quadrant is helplessness. The next quadrant in which many of you may be is the exhausted achiever. This is the quadrant where you have money, status, achievement, but constant anxiety. Examples include burned out executives and entrepreneurs who cannot switch off, people who win externally but lose internally. And the predominant emotion in this quadrant is restlessness. This is where many of us probably fear ending up. This brings us to what I called success tax. Success is not free. The question isn't whether you'll pay a price. You will. It's a question of which currency you'll use. In the exhausted achiever quadrant, people often pay with time, health, and relationships. From the outside, their lives look rich. From the inside, it can feel surprisingly expensive. Now, many of you may be in the exhausted achiever quadrant, winning the game but losing your soul. And we'll soon look at what it takes to make the transition out of this quadrant. But when I talk about finding peace, I don't certainly mean that you have to become a peaceful underachiever. This is the quadrant where a person is content but not growing, comfortable but not challenged. It's where someone avoids ambition to avoid stress. And the predominant emotion in this quadrant is comfort. This quadrant can quickly become stagnation disguised as wisdom. Now, the quadrant that we all want to be in is what I call the integrated human. This is the high success, high peace quadrant, where you have meaningful work, financial security, healthy relationships, and inner calm. This is the example of someone who consciously designed their life, and someone who uses achievement as a tool, not as an identity. And the predominant emotion in this quadrant is fulfillment. This is someone who is comfortable with enough. This is the quadrant that most of us want. We rarely define it clearly enough. Now, sometimes, if we are in the lost drifter quadrant, we want the impossible path to directly lead to the integrated human. But this is impossible. So most people take two different paths. The first path is the story of I need to become successful. Someone who works hard, builds wealth, status, and career. And then they discover that success alone cannot create fulfillment. So they learn to balance meaning, relationships, and inner peace. It begins the journey to become an integrated human. This is the classic modern success story. But here's the secret that most productivity gurus won't tell you. You cannot hustle your way out of this quadrant. If hard work was the exit strategy, you would have arrived at peace years ago. Move from exhausted to integrated. You don't need more success. You need a different operating system. You need to stop optimizing for output and start optimizing for alignment. The biggest mistake isn't becoming an exhausted achiever. The biggest mistake is believing that that's the final destination. Now, the second path is to go from being a lost drifter to a peaceful underachiever. This is someone who rejects society's rat race. First learns mindfulness, contentment, simplicity, and peace. But eventually realizes that peace without growth can become stagnation. Then begins to create, contribute, build, and serve. So in this way makes the journey towards being an integrated human. This route is less talked about, but very real. The exhausted achiever learns that success is not enough. The peaceful underachiever learns that peace is not enough. And both eventually discover a meaningful life requires both achievement and peace. Most people think that they must choose between ambition and peace. The real goal is to become the kind of person who can hold both. But to build this kind of life, you have to fix your relationship with the two things that keep most people trapped in the exhausted achiever zone: your time and your money. If you do not master the math of freedom, you'll always be a slave to the matrix that we just saw. I've mapped out the exact framework for this transition in a video on the freedom matrix. If you're ready to stop accidentally building a life that you don't want, watch this next. I'll see you over there.